Hey, it's Coach with Tactical Hyve, and today I've got a few knives that I've used throughout my career as kind of an answer to a lot of the questions that I was getting from the comments. So stand by and we'll run through them. And we're back. Okay, so back in 1986 when I went through Buds, we were issued, well, let's see, it looked like this when it was brand new, the old K-bar, USN Mark II. So that's what it looked like when I got issued it. This is a more well-preserved one. But the actual one, this is my actual Buds knife that I then carried for, at least my first platoon. And yeah, it's a little dried out, a little, action worn, but it was a good, really good knife for what it was at the time. Hard to beat a K-bar. They're a bit chunky, a bit big, but I mean, back then we weren't wearing body armor. We didn't have all that extra weight already there. So, guys, you carried this, and normally you'd have a, the Mark 13 flare. Your day-night flare would be taped to the outside of this. And just a good solid knife, usually went on your belt, somewhere in your, in that good old LC1, combat harness stuff. Now, at the same time, this is also a Buds. This was the dive knife that was issued, this good old US Divers. I don't want to break that rubber snubber. It was big, it was chunky, and it came with the straps that go on your leg or went on your dive belt. Wasn't a bad knife, but I mean, you'd sit out there and get your inspection, your swimmer inspection. They'd make sure that sucker was sharp as it could be. But I never really had to use anything, never cut my way anything with this. Probably a good thing. Now, when I got to the team, they issued this thing here, which is a fucking travesty. The USN Mark III. Hot garbage. The metal sucks, won't hold an edge, and that thin little point right there will just snap right off. So, again, this one's almost pristine because, it went in the drawer. There's one that I don't have here because I actually asked for it back at SEAL Team 5 when I left, and that was a Buckmaster. Ooh. Man, this thing was horrible. It was huge. It was, over 1/4 of an inch thick, I think. Big metal thing all the way through. Had a loop on the butt and these spikes that you would screw into the pommel. I'm like, what the hell's that for? Apparently they thought we were gonna use that as a grappling hook. I'm like, okay, that's exactly what I want to do, is throw a sharp knife up over my head and hope it grabs onto something. It was the dumbest thing, but hey, they wanted it back, so I gave it back to them. Now, with my own money, I like this one, but I went out and found a little bit smaller knife, and on my rig, for diving, we had the Draeger, right? And it's got that shell that goes up here in front, and I just basically taped this thing and secured it, strapped it down so it was right there on my rig, so I could easily get it out and do whatever to do with it, shove it back in there, snub it up, and then it was great. And hell, I had this on my rig every time I dove a Draeger from then on, even at Dam Neck. This was my Draeger rig knife. When I went to Green Team, they issued us these, good old Glock. It's a decent blade for what it is. At the time, it was one of the only ones that did that. Your scabbard, you actually held it in there. And it was right out of the box, and you can't argue with free. Most of the time, they would mount them on your drop leg holster, so you had your knife right down there with it, and this would just clip on there, and work something in to hold this down so it didn't flop around. And you could pull this out, do what you had to do with it, and shove it back in. And it was a decent knife for what it was. It held a decent edge, but man, they rusted. They rusted quick. And anyway, some of them will have like a sawtooth back here, but can never see the utility in that one. Round about that time, a little bit later, they actually issued this thing. This is a lot like that frickin' Buckmaster. It's about the same size, but this is your M9 bayonet. And again, I might have used it to chop wood or something around the house, but you know, too big, man. It was too big, too heavy. I mean, hell, it's got a little sharpening stone here, which is kind of cool. And hell, you can, you know, get your, you know, wire cutter thing going on there if you want to cut some wire that way. I don't know. There's, it's big, chunky, and no one ever carried the damn thing. Now, at Bud's, they started issuing this one. This is the good old Seal Pup. And honestly, it's a decent knife for what it is. They're about, well, about 50 bucks at the time, so you could buy a couple of these, and when it got dull or if you lost it, who gave, you know, it's just gone. Who cares? Like I said, you know, SOG, decent company, held an edge pretty well, and it was going the right direction for the weight, size and weight for the actual knife. Because, you know, everybody talks about, oh yeah, you're gonna go for that knife kill? Like, dude, I got a gun to shoot people with, okay? Knives end up, you know, cutting string, digging holes of shit in, stuff like that. You know, that's what your knife actually gets used for 99% of the time. So, you know, anyway, you don't need that big knife fighter knife. And then this is what they're still issuing at Bud's, the SRK from Cold Steel. And it's a good enough knife. It works for what it is. It'll hold a decent edge. The old ones were made out of carbon 5 steel, and that was really good. That would hold an edge for a while, but it would rust fairly quickly because the high carbon steel does that. Now, those are the ones that were actually issued to me. Now, during that time, we would also do other stuff. So this was my cold weather knife, Cold Steel Trailmaster Bowie. It's carbon 5, and of course it's sharp, real sharp now even. It's been in the sheath untouched for a few years. But you know, doing cold weather, you know, you could chop things with it. It does camp tasks really well. And again, at that point, we weren't wearing body armor all the time. So yeah, some of the stuff could be a little bit heavier, and it wasn't that big a deal. But it was a decent knife for when you're out in the woods doing camping type stuff. Now, over in the Philippines, you get the bolo knife. Hell, this probably cost me $8, you know. Buffalo horn handle. The steel was probably off of a old saw blade from a sawmill or a Jeep spring, you know. Who knows where it came from. But this was a really good, it's fairly light, and the way I had this set up on my kit is I would just kind of run this through my my belt and would hang like right here. So I had my K-bar with the, you know, my flare and everything over here and with all my, you know, stuff on, and then this was right here. So just in case I had to like chop my way through something or, you know, whatever was there, chop, 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 and then, you know, shove it back in, and it stayed in there pretty good. One of the added benefits to this, say you slice yourself up a little bit, you could take and just shave off some of that that horn, and you take that and shove it into your cut, and it's an anticoagulant. So, or it's a coagulant, right? So that coagulant action that you have there, you just kind of shave a little bit off of there and stop minor bleeding. It's not like quick clot or anything, but you know, those little boo-boos get you through it. About that same time, this was all the rage, the Gerber Mark II. Yeah, so you had to get one because it was, you know, guys had this. So between the K-bar and this, again, fairly lightweight, and this looked a little more aggressive, like, you know, in case you wanted to go for that knife kill, but, you know. It's a good, decent knife, and again, light enough that you would actually carry it. Still a bit big. When I was over working with the SBS, went in and got one of these Fairburn Sykes commando daggers. It's just cool. I mean, come on. Am I going to carry it? No. But come on, man. You can't argue with me. That is one sexy knife. Anyway, and it's needle sharp too. Made in Sheffield. Good stuff. Now, when I got to Dam Neck, that was, so let's see, Glock knife was issued, and then on Gold Squadron, one of the guys had a buddy who was a knife maker, and he made this again, getting lighter. You know, it has the saw blade is actually useful. Got some jimping there, and it's got this little cut right here, so that you could, you know, put it on a chain link fence or whatever, you know, stress the metal, and so it's kind of a wire cutter. You know, it takes a little more effort than, say, just clipping, but you had something. You know, you're not going to chop through wire with anything else on here. And this is the sheath, the liner that came with the actual Cordura, you know, over this thing. I'm not sure where that went, but. And then after I left, they started getting issued these, and a buddy of mine got one for me with this, your good Winkler. And the Winkler was it's just badass, sorry. This one doesn't get a whole lot of use because it's, you know, more ceremonial than anything, but guys on the squadron were using these. This is the one that you would mount across the back of your kit. This is one, you shoved it in here, and then that just rode back there, and you could reach back, grab that. It kept it out of the way, and you know, you didn't always, you weren't always running around with a plate carrier on, but if you had your belt on, you're good to go. You know, so if you just got a belt on, you got a knife, you got a, you know, place for your mags and, you know, your gun. So that was kind of the the Winkler. Let's see. So you've probably seen this kit before here. This is my Iraq invasion one, and this knife there, a good old Benchmade. I'm not sure. I'm going to butcher this, but Eichelwitz. I don't know. This was perfect in size and weight. Its capability, though, was I think we could do a little bit better, but it was perfect. It sat right in here. You need it, you pull it out, use it, shove it back in. Yeah, it was real convenient. And then, so when I got to Warcom, Surefire came to us and said, "Hey man, we want to make you guys a seal knife. What do you want?" And they showed me all these big chunky things, and I was like, well, you know. So I got with their knife guy, and we kind of went over, and this is what we developed. So it's a lot shorter, you know, it's light, similar to that Benchmade, made of just really, really good steel. Not sure which one, you know, SV, whatever, who knows. It was good steel. Surefire makes good stuff, right? And so we kind of spec'd this out, and I think we bought like 500 of them, issued them out to the troops. And I don't know whether anybody ever bought any more, but that was my contribution to, you know, knives that were issued in the teams. Now, off duty, okay, we were issued. Everybody was issued something like this, you know, either a Spyderco police model or the Spyderco Endura, something like that. So this is one of the first ones that, you know, you just clip into your pocket, right? And so you didn't need a sheath. It was always there for you. So I started carrying one of these at first, and then, well, I had another one, so I started carrying two. So one was kind of reserved for you know, special meat cutting tasks, and the other one would be that knife that your buddy says, "Hey man, you got a knife?" and you hand it to him, and he hands it back to you, and it's all dulled and chopped up and crap. So I had my crap knife, that was my handout knife, and, you know, hell, if I needed to do, you know, some, you know, chopping chores, I would have that one, but I always have one reserved for being really sharp and ready to go. And then when I was over in a, let's call it a non-permissive environment, I didn't want to be armed with a pistol all the time. So I went to the exchange and found the old Cold Steel Voyager. There you go. Cold Steel Voyager. I'm like, oh my God, that's the hugest knife we've ever seen. And, you know, but I could run with this, And where I was, they weren't just, murdering Americans, but they might try and kidnap you. So this was going to come out while I was running. They were going to bleed at one point if they were coming after me. So that was my the least amount of protection that I would go for a jog or whatever. I mean, your awareness is what's going to keep you safe in that. And then of course when I got back, I got the old Vaquero Grande just because, what the heck. It carries a lot smaller than it looks. Man, when you pull that out, you might get some respect there if you don't have your gun with you. Okay, so we talked about knife fighting training, stuff like that. Okay, if you're gonna train to fight with a knife, because it is a possibility if you're down to, that's all you got left. So we have something like this that you can actually put like paint, lipstick, whatever, something that mark on the side. So when you touch somebody, you know that you got them. Okay, this is the sharpest thing that we will let door touch. He's got some goo on it anyway. I'm not sure. Eating them damn crayons again. Hang out with Marines way too much. Now, if you're going to do this is for you can poke somebody with this as long as you got eye pro on. You're not going to hurt them, and but it's not heavy. It's not the same weight. So if you're going to do something like that, the knife that you are going to train with, that you're going to carry, you need to make a training knife. So this is just one of these SRKs, but I dulled the hell out of it, so it's like a butter knife, and I blunted the end. This is not for using on people. This is for using on a target, so you can, deal with the weight, okay, of the actual weapon that you might be using. So I highly recommend, if you're going to call yourself a knife fighter and say you're able to do that, then make something like this so you can actually practice it. Don't use this on any live training partners though, because it would hurt. You'd put some bruises on you, and might even break a bone. So, as for training, now I alluded to what I thought was the capability of that Benchmade, good size, good weight, all that, but left a little bit desired in the capabilities department, right? So, it's hard to make, sheath knife do a whole lot more than cut things, all right? Like the ability of this here, having a little, a way to cut a wire if you had to, okay? So something like that is real simple to put in there. And then glass breaking is another one. You can beat something with steel, but if you got a little ceramic nub, that you can put on the base of a knife, that'd probably be good as well. So I talked to my little brother Nick, who's he's a champion from the History Channel's Forged in Fire, where they make swords and knives and stuff, and he's still the only guy that his sword cleaved the pig carcass in one go. So he makes a good knife. Well, I talked to him about this, and he's like, "Oh yeah, man, we can do something like that." So this is just the little, quick prototype that he knocked out. It'll be made out of some really nice steel, and it'll have the wire cutter and the glass breaker as well, and come with a decent sheath, because that's important as well. He's in the process of moving right now, so it's going to be 6 months, but eventually I'm hoping that we'll get something out there that we can share with you. All right, price point, who knows? It's going to be a custom blade. Anyway, so here's a good overview on the knives that we issued, their shortcomings, the knives that we actually used, and then some of the more custom ones that we've built. Eventually, we'll get with my bro, and we'll get something going with this one. Be determined later, right? Anyhow, if you like this content, go ahead and give me a like and subscribe, and you know what to do.